we used to say have sex with the customer. So smile, engage, exchange. Right?
Okay,
So have sex with them on the doorstep.
All right, got you,
basically.
yeah.
Smile, engage.
You don't want to say that to the wrong
exchange.
person. You'd be bloody on the news again.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeremy Foster, welcome to the Puzzle Factory.
Thank you for having me.
How
it's
are
good
you,
to be
mate?
here. I'm good.
Bloody good.
Bloody good.
So you're currently the general manager of Fujitsu General.
Yeah, correct. For
New
NZ.
Zealand?
Yeah. Reporting into Australia.
Cool. And how long have you been in that role?
About 10 months now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on 10 months.
Going all right?
It's great. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Obviously, we don't know each other very well yet.
Not yet.
But from what I've sort of gathered, you've got quite a rich career history behind you so far.
I've got an eclectic career history. Is
Yeah.
probably the best way to put it, Alex.
All right. Well, let's dig in, mate. Where are you from?
Grew up in the Wairarapa, so I'm a Wairarapa boy. Grew up on a farm. I was a little young, basically labourer, unpaid, which very quickly, early on, made me decide I didn't want to be a farmer.
Yeah, bloody hard work,
and then,
right?
and then I wanted to wear a suit for a living.
Yeah. I can understand that.
Yeah. So I grew up slightly unusual growing up. My mum was a DP at a local private prep school, and so I grew up without a television, as an example. So my early sort of childhood, teenage years was all reading, writing, spelling, etc., and reading books. So yeah.
So you had to entertain yourself with education. Some
yeah,
extent,
pretty
right?
much. Yeah. So when I finished. So I went to a school called Hadlow and then Wairarapa College for my secondary.
Yeah.
And I was 16 in my 7th form. So I was fairly young as I came through.
Yeah. So you were youngest in the year sort of thing?
Yeah, by a couple of years, all my mates at school were all a couple of years older than me. So
All right. So was that the family farm? Or
family farm.
Was.
Yeah,
bloody awesome.
The folks sold it after I'd left high school.
Yeah.
They ended up going their own way, actually.
Dairy farm or?
Nah, sheep. And back then, wool was worth money, so sharing, that sort of thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then a fair bit of pine and a bit of everything, really.
Yeah. But bloody hard graft, and you thought?
Oh, where I grew up in the Wairarapa, like it's Riverstone and shit like that. So when you're basically a fencer as a kid, you're trying to dig through stones, and you don't have the hardest hands, and then hay baling at 11 o'clock at night and loading trucks, and then I was a tree pruner, and then a crutcher and a dagger and a rousey and a shearing shed, and
that's a lifestyle more than a job. It sounds like.
Yeah, I never got paid for it. That's the irony.
Yeah,
so, you just get used as a labourer.
I definitely got used as a labourer when I was a kid. For my dad, he had factories. Like injection moulding, stuff like that.
Oh, well.
But, I mean, I was on the big bucks, mate. I used to get £10 a week.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I was earning some serious coin.
Yeah, interesting. £10 a week, nice.
No, so obviously finished school and all the rest of it, and then were you straight into the workplace? Or?
I was registered to study law, actually. I was going to study law in Otago. And then my parents separated.
Yep.
And they separated. My father told me on Boxing Day, so that has a pretty profound.
Oh, awesome. Merry Christmas.
Bloody right. Yeah. It has a pretty profound impact on me as a youngster.
Yep.
And so I went, how can I get the furthest away from these two?
Okay.
And have a look at life. And so I enrolled in the Navy.
Okay. All right.
I took a sort of a short-term job for about 6 months. To get all my clearances, and then I got into a special branch in the Navy, and I disappeared off there. So it was a long time ago. It was very early 90s, straight out of high school.
So where were you posted in the Navy?
I spent a lot of time away in the Navy. So I did a specialised sort of training, and then I was posted offshore in lots of weird places. So I spent a lot of time up in the Philippines, a bit of time in the Middle East, a lot of time working out of Singapore.
Okay.
And then places like Guam, Kota Kinabalu, Marshall Islands, a lot of the South China Sea, just random spots, not holiday spots, Kuantan.
Yeah. Sounds like war zones, mate.
It was a little bit like that. It was really interesting, actually. There was aspects of it I loved, and there was aspects of it that were shit.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I mean, travel, in my opinion, is some of the best education you can get. Go and see in the world. It gives you perspective. there's times, as you say, where you're like, this is fantastic, and then there's other times where you're like, where the fuck am I? What's going on?
But to be fair, it gave me a really bloody good look at things, and even though I was young, it gave me the ability to reflect, and so the Navy was a real catalyst for me because it taught me a lot about myself, but then also a lot about my values and what I found important. And whilst there were aspects of it that were fantastic, like they look after you really well in the Navy. You get well fed, you get well housed, you get well travelled. They pay like crap, but that's life. You know that going in.
Yeah.
So no point complaining coming out. But what it also did is it gave me the ability to look at how people work and efficiencies or lack of efficiencies. And so it was one of the really interesting things that came out. There'd be a job that needs to be done, and they'd be 95% of the way through. And it could be anything from a menial job to a high-level task. And smoko bell would go. They would drop tools, clean up, pack everything away, go and have smoko for 15 minutes, come back, and then reassemble everything for half an hour to finish a job that takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so the inefficiencies that came through from some of the way the Navy works just got to me in the end. So I ended up leaving as a result. But then it also gave me really good insight into what I was interested in doing, which is basically getting shit done and making things happen.
So you already had a bit of an analytical mind as a young fella, eh?
I've still got a little bit of an analytical mind. It's not my happy place.
Yeah.
Like I can drop in and out of reporting and Excel and numbers easily, and I've got a head for numbers. I can't remember street names. I can't remember really basic stuff. I often can't remember people's names, which is unusual in my career, in the sales career, but I can remember numbers like you wouldn't believe.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I can remember the value of a deal from a decade ago.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. No.
Yeah, I'm that weirdo.
That makes sense. So obviously left the Navy, straight into sales from there, or?
No, I did something random. I went back home to the Wairarapa.
Yeah.
And this is still very early 90s, so I'm trying to think of the year now. It'd be about 96 actually. So I'd been in the Navy for 4 and a bit years, 96, end of 96. And back then when you bought a New Zealand Herald, it was about 3 inches thick.
Okay.
And in the back of the New Zealand Herald was job ads.
Yeah.
Right? And so you'd buy the Saturday edition because that was all the job ads.
Yeah.
This is pre-internet, pre-everything, pre-cell
that was
pre-cell
the
phones.
internet, wasn't it?
And so me being cocky out of the Navy, cocky, not confident, definitely cocky but not confident. I circled every job in the newspaper and the Herald that paid more than $100,000 a year.
Yeah, good on you. I like it.
So this is 96, so there wasn't that many of them. And then I applied.
That would have been a decent salary then, eh?
It was a lot of money back then, and so I applied for them all.
Yeah.
I got turned down by the majority, but I got an interview with a company called Xerox.
Yep.
Or Fuji Xerox is known. So there was a couple of companies back in the day in the 90s which were really well recognised for training and development.
Yep.
So one was IBM and the other one was Xerox.
Yep.
And so, I was lucky. I came through Xerox. So I had 3 or 4 interviews and they gave me a chance. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I came back to Auckland. I could only afford 1 suit. I bought a car that had no air conditioning. Never do that in Auckland. That's a ridiculously stupid idea.
Too hot or too cold all year round.
Yeah. And I had a boss who was a real taskmaster, and I still have a huge amount of respect for him this day. His infinite wisdom. I was a skinny little white fella, fresh out of sort of the Navy, no sales experience, in my 1 suit that I owned, sweating in a Toyota Corona. He decided to stick me in South Auckland as a patch.
Oh, yeah, good lad. With your people.
Yeah. And so that was pretty liberating too. So my brief as a junior, so I was called a junior sales representative. I wasn't. I was a door knocker.
Yeah,
right.
Okay.
So you go and knock doors, you come back with business
cards. So you were literally
cards.
door to door.
Literally.
And sorry,
I've canvassed most of Auckland, to be blunt.
Yeah,
it makes me laugh, like where your office is here. I've canvassed all this whole area.
That's funny. I've actually got it written down here on the points. Like, did you start off as door-to-door sales?
Totally. Yeah.
So
I didn't sell like that per se, but it was all about gathering intel, contacts, building a database, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I'm not the smartest guy, and what I worked out in that role, so I was called a junior sales rep. I didn't have the skills of the others. I was up against university graduates, people that had had a proper education, that had come through a system. I was fresh out of the Navy. And so it clicked with me one day, and I thought, you know what I need to do? All I need to do is do more calls than anybody else.
Yep.
And that was it. And so we had this instruction from a sales manager. His name is Sean. He's a good man. He taught me a lot. And but he was a real hard taskmaster. And he's like, right, you're out of the office at 10. You don't come back before 3.
Yep.
And you come back with 40 business cards. And you have any less than that, don't come back.
Yeah, so, okay. All right. So you would have been pretty busy then.
It was pretty specific instruction, right? And so I didn't come back with 40. I came back with 60, 70, 80, 100, depending on the day, depending on where I was knocking.
Yeah.
And I'd ring the cards, ring all of them, and book appointments, and it worked really well. And it came back to probably the work ethic I'd picked up from growing up on the farm, from being a post-hole digger to a fence, to a fencer, to a shearer, to a whatever. Yeah. I found out I had work ethic, which I didn't realise, and the Navy probably taught me that, and then the door knocking in this role did, and so I excelled at it. Within 6 months I was the top rep, junior rep inside Xerox.
Yeah, bloody good.
So 147% of budget.
Just circling back, you've already said something early on that resonates with me massively, kind of twice. So I just hear sales when you said you went and circled every ad in the paper over 100 grand. Like, a lot of it's about buying tickets to the lottery, right? Which some people don't understand, So the fact that you did that and then you go and getting out, making all these connections, even though you didn't really know what to do, to me, that's one of the basic principles of sales, casting your net wide, and going for it. And it takes a certain mentality to, I guess, have the confidence to do that as well.
Yeah, I think you go through stages, like I'm old and grey and fat now, and I've been around the block a few times, and so I think you're all right. I don't have any challenges around doing things like that now. I find public speaking comfortable. I can talk to anyone. Doesn't matter if they're in Jandals or a boardroom. I don't care. Yep. And I can talk about $1,000 deal or $100 million deal. It doesn't bother me. But back then in the 20s, I guess I had to learn, and you had to. You got to control your emotions. You got to be really mindful of how you come across. I'm quite a polarizing personality, and I have to be very, very mindful of that. And back then, you had to learn to basically park your fear, I guess it was, Yep. And you probably deal with a little bit of imposter syndrome, I think, on the way through.
Yeah.
And so, there's a whole journey that you go on. I certainly have been on, in terms of sales and career. And it comes over time.
Yeah.
Probably one of the big things, and I do a lot of it now, is the art of reflection. Mm-hmm. I think when a lot of people are getting into sales or a role that requires high levels of communication, I'm not sure a lot of people have the ability to reflect well, and you have to be able to reflect so you can adjust your behaviour. Because Alex, we could go to the pub and have a beer, you and I, right?
Yep.
And I might come away from the pub and go, Alex is a dick. I don't want to have a beer with him again.
Yeah.
Right?
You probably will.
Oh, maybe. you probably say the same. But the thing is, what I've got to recognise is Alex isn't going to change his behaviour, because Alex has been like this forever.
Yeah.
So if I want to communicate with Alex better, then I have to change my behaviour, right? Which means I have to have the power of reflection and understand how I'm coming across. And that's probably the biggest weakness I see in salespeople. They think they have to be a certain way. They don't have the ability to reflect, and because they don't reflect, they don't adjust their approach, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's probably a massive learning for me in terms of business in general.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Reflection's powerful. Yeah. Just a lot of people don't do it because they're scared of what they find.
Yeah. You don't want to microanalyze yourself.
No, totally. Yeah. I'm serious. People don't like what they're going to find.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But, same with anything. You've got to look at the things that you shit at to improve, right?
Or just not do them. Like golf.
Dig deep on it.
Fuck golf.
I'm glad you said that. They keep inviting me to the driving range or to play golf.
And I can't stand it.
Sorry, but no.
Yeah, I like doing things I'm good at, and golf's not one of them. So.
Yeah, neither.
Fishing? Yes.
Yeah, talking golf, shit. No. That's about it. Cool. All right. Just remind me as well, like, Fuji Xerox, literally when I hear that company name, I just think photocopier.
Yeah, photocopiers.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, photocopiers in the 90s were powerful, right? Because, and the reason being is this is how old I am. You get a pay slip, it'd be printed. You get anything that would go through the business was printed.
And everything was fax as well.
Fax and printing, yeah. And so if you think about it in the context of how a device like that is used in a business, they're key critical to the business. To the point you take it out of a business, you shut it down.
So it was big bickies.
Big bucks. Like I was selling photocopiers for $2 million that would print things like your council rate bills.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I was selling office machines that were $150,000.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So yeah, huge money.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting.
It was. I mean, as I said, I circled jobs that paid more than $100,000, and so
yes, there had to be some large income in there in the 90s to.
I think my
salaries.
My best year was about $370,000. So if you put that in the context of the 90s,
well, you paid for your seat, haven't you?
Well, I bought a Ferrari when I was 24 out of it. So,
did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Bloody hell!
Yeah.
You still got it?
No. I've been through a few now. Yeah.
Good on you. So from there, where did we go?
So I stayed at Xerox for a long time. I was there for nearly 7 years.
Yeah.
Went through various roles. I tried major accounts. So I moved back down to Wellington, being not far from the Wairarapa, close to the folks. Major accounts, hated it. Slow sales cycle, middle management bullshit, government, didn't have the patience.
Yeah.
Didn't enjoy it. You know, I wasn't getting the quick wins out of it.
Yeah.
So I went back to Auckland, and they actually gave me the Auckland team to run half of it, and the other half with one of my very good mates to this day, Dean. And so we had the team split between us, and Dean and I are being super competitive. He was also one of the best salespeople I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
We ran the shit out of it, and so we ran the most successful sales team in the history of that business.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was a bit like a boiler room environment.
Yeah.
And we were going crazy.
It sounds a bit Wolf of Wall Street-y.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. Dreamer was driving with Dean, my friend was, driving a new 911 Turbo, and I was driving a 355 Ferrari, and all the boys were in European cars, and it was all on. It was great. I used to go to Dean's every Friday. I'd take a box of Heineken with me, and we'd talk sales.
Yeah.
Till late in the night. Yeah. Sharing stories, and it was good. It was a good time.
Oh, bloody God. Yeah.
So for about 7 years, roughly.
So you cut your teeth there.
Yeah, cut my teeth there.
So to speak, as a career.
Yeah, while I was there, I got a bit pissed off with Xerox Finance because they were sensibly doing things the correct way, and I was still a young guy in my 20s that knew better than everybody and didn't want to listen. And so I went and set up a finance book with another finance company to finance the deals that Xerox Finance wouldn't do. And people got wind of it, and I got approached actually, and so I went off merchant banking. So I went from
really,
yeah. So I went from selling photocopiers to selling money.
Oh Jesus! Okay, all right.
Yeah, so that was really interesting. It was really interesting. I learned a lot out of that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine you did. So where are we here? Early 2000s.
It's exactly where it was. I want to say it was 2000. I'm getting so old now. 2002.
Okay.
2003, somewhere around there. Yep.
All right. So merchant banking,
merchant banking.
I would imagine that was quite lucrative.
It was commission only. That's one thing they don't realise. And so
no base salary.
You can draw a base salary, but they hook it back off you.
Okay.
And it's how a lot of those sort of places work.
Yeah.
And it appealed to me. I had a basic understanding of finance. I learned a basic acumen around getting deals done. And I wanted to kind of get stuck into it. So it went well. I had about 5 years merchant banking. So by the time I finished, I was about 30, and I had enough money to take 5-6 years off.
Yeah.
Probably longer if I hadn't spent it all. But it was great. Merchant banking was really interesting. I wouldn't do it again. It's a young person's game.
Yeah.
I was at the office at 6 a.m, home at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Dealing with a lot of pressure, dealing with big numbers, people's money.
What exactly does a merchant banker do? Are you trading or?
No, there's no trading desk in these environments. So Alex comes to me. Alex wants to build a building that's got 300 apartments in it and a hotel and retail on the bottom, and the total build's going to be $300 million, but Alex only has $1 million to contribute. They ask you to put the rest of the deal together.
Okay, so you're just assessing the risk on an investment.
we put the money together. So you get the debt, you get the equity, you put a deal together that stacks for all the parties, and you make it work, and you charge fees and percentages for doing it.
Okay, so it sounds like a risky business when you don't win.
You just do win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, you don't do it. It's like playing golf.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
But yeah, it was interesting. I cut my teeth on a lot of deals, and what I learned merchant banking is still useful to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know you were a merchant banker, so that's
it's not something I advertise.
Yeah. Fair enough. Because the only thing I really knew about you was the HRV. Side of the deal. So is that kind of where you went next? Or?
Well, no, I took 5 years off after I was merchant banking. I needed a break by then. Doing the sort of boiler room environment of Xerox and then the merchant banking, it's pretty full noise. And so I took 5 years, and I took my old man to Europe a couple of times. Went up for the America's Cup up in France, and met the rest of my family up in France for the Rugby World Cup. And I did a lot of game fishing around the world, and I bought a place up north, Tutakaka way, and so I spent a lot of time fishing out of there. I just had a good time for 5 years. A lot of long lunches. A lot of international travel. It's good fun.
Yeah, it doesn't sound terrible at all, mate.
That wasn't.
Cool. So what made you get back into work?
I was in Europe, and I got a call from a mate, Craig, that ran a business called Rico.
Yep.
Rico is a competitor to Xerox, slightly more techie, so IT divisions, et cetera, and he wanted to set up a new division in Rico. So he asked me if I'd come and run it.
Okay.
I was like, no way, mate, you can't pay me enough. And then he threw a number at me, and I said, I'll be there next week.
I'll be there Monday.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I went to Rico for about 3 years and ended up running that team in Auckland as well, which was great. It made me realise it's probably not the industry for me long term.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing wrong with Rico, great company, great product, great people, but I'd probably done my time, I think.
Yeah.
And so had a bit of time there, and then I got approached, actually. I was at my house up north, and I got a random call from a mate, Muzzer, and he's like, mate, I'm coming around to see you. I got a friend with me. We want to have a cup of tea. I was like, what's this all about? I didn't ask him on the phone, and Muzzer turned up, and he had one of the founders of HRV with him.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they came around to my house. We literally had a cup of tea in the kitchen, and they said, look, we're looking for a sales director for the business. And I had an impromptu sort of chat discussion with them.
But Mozzer's gone, this is your man.
Yeah, Muzzer knows me from history and and was aware of some of the deals I'd done and things. And so said to Marcus, who was the founder, this is your guy. And Marcus came away from the meeting and got hold of the consultancy that was doing the lookout work for the right people and put me in touch with them and said, hire this guy.
Okay. Okay. So, and then you went for that because I believe you had you kind of turned that around a bit as well for them.
They were trading well. They were one of those businesses that got two founders, who the founders had done really well, very, very well for themselves. And they're just at that stage where you probably needed to put some capital in it. It was true expansion, scale it, have better systems, processes, structure. Yeah. I wasn't aware I was capable of doing any of that stuff actually, but that's what they wanted me for.
Okay. So, but you obviously figured it out.
I think you work it out as you go, right?
Yeah. Fake it until you make it, eh?
Well, we had a massive cock up actually. So as part of joining that business, there was basically 4 of us put together as a management team, and none of us knew each other. Yeah. So we've been put together by a third-party consultancy. We got an opportunity to become shareholders. Yep. So everybody sort of put cash in, and then we were private equity backed. And private equity comes with a bit of a reputation, which I'm not sure it's deserved. They tend to be pretty ruthless. They can pull the arms and legs off businesses, strip them down, build value however they see appropriate, but not often in the best way, and then flog them for a very high IRR, so internal rate of return.
Okay.
I was fortunate and lucky. The 3 gentlemen I got put with, we all had very different skill sets.
Okay.
Very different.
You filled in the gaps for each other.
We didn't know that. I'll tell you a story about that. But very different skill sets. And we were lucky. Our private equity backer, Rajiv, owned a company called Equity Partners, based out of Sydney. hell of a business, hell of a guy. Was the right sort of private equity. Wanted to invest, wanted to build the company, wanted to put it into the people, processes, etc. Wasn't about stripping value, etc.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate. It was probably good luck as much as anything.
Yeah.
So we got in that business 6 months in, trading okay. We were a small business. We were circa 30 million.
Yep.
So reasonably small. Scalable, but small. Coverage right across the country. I was in Invercargill. I was in Invercargill in a rental car doing appointments in houses.
I thought you meant you were based in Invercargill.
No.
This is an odd spot to put you in.
It was a bit of a story. I was in Invercargill. I'd been there a few days. I always made a practice of every region I would go in home and sell myself. Yep. I used to even do it on the weekends because very hard for me to get up in front of 120 salespeople and either tell them what to do, prescribe what to do, or train or coach them if I haven't done it myself.
Yeah.
It's a big failing on sales leaders. I'm a massive believer in that. Yeah. Like I've just come here today from 3 sales calls I've done.
Yeah.
Massive believer in it. And so
doing what you preach, not just
you have to. You have to. And it's the only way you can learn as well. So I was in Invercargill. I remember pulling over on the side of the road because we ended up having an exec team call. So this is the 4 gentlemen I was talking about, myself included. And we had an incident. So you remember a gentleman, John Campbell?
Yeah, of course.
TV guy? Yeah. So he had a program called Campbell Live.
Yeah.
So we got notification from John Campbell and Campbell Live that we were going to be on Campbell Live that night.
Yeah.
And that one of our salespeople from one of our franchises had basically done some naughty shit. Had been in home, decided it was wise to get an elderly lady and drive her down to an ATM to get some money out to pay for her HRV system.
Oh, okay.
Elderly lady had kids. Kids took exception, notified the media. John Campbell made a thing of it. We had an exec call. It was a bit of a eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who wants to front the TV? Bag's not. So our CEO, Bruce, fronted TV. It decimated our business.
Really?
Decimated.
So it was like a target piece almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't disagree with what they reported, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not my standpoint on it, but what it did is it stuffed our revenues overnight.
Oh, shit.
So we've bought a business. We borrowed off ASB. We've got private equity behind us. We've all tipped money into it. People sold houses, and our revenues got cut off overnight.
Did it come back?
Well, no, you get a few choices when things like that happened. And these guys I worked with are smart. So what we decided to do is engage the Commerce Commission.
Yep.
Yeah, which in itself's tricky. Engage the Commerce Commission, and what we did is we agreed to do a full compliance program through the business.
Yep.
Okay, so off the back of that, I ended up building a full LMS training platform.
LMS?
Learning management system. Okay, so cool. Online content, but content of video, training, etc. Used heavily these days in things like HR, a lot of businesses. Yep. And so I put that in place. I put a lot of really strict training processes, protocols, documented sales processes. I put in training manuals for the sales managers so they knew what they were doing on an hourly, weekly, monthly basis.
So it's really structured.
Structured. Yeah. And I did it because it gave me uniformity and process across the country in every role. Yep. So I knew what was going to occur in every single sales appointment that happened across the country. And if they stepped out of line, I'd kneecap them.
Yep. Okay.
Literally.
So was this, you developed this while you were still in HRV?
Yeah.
And this is your recovery program?
Yeah. I bought a lot of systems into HRV that I didn't kind of realise probably at the time how useful they would be. There were things I'd learned over the years, and I'm a member of a very good sales sort of consulting business in this country, and I've learned a lot from that. Just things I picked up from formal training I'd done and other things, and so I implemented a bunch of systems and processes into HRV.
Okay, and obviously we kind of mentioned this before, but the juicy stuff I really wanted to hear you talk about was this 10 steps.
That's only one of them. I've got loads of processes.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. So I've got the 8 steps, I've got the 5 steps, I've got the 24 steps, I've got the 10 steps one that I'll talk to you about, which is a baseline one. Like I've got a program called Scotsman, something called Impulses, Disruptive Selling, the Buyer's Journey.
Is this something we can link to with the podcast and put out as a resource for some of it, or is it?
We'd need to do separate sessions on them, but yeah, more than happy to. They're all individual subjects for different things.
Cool.
Yeah.
But is it on an online resource, or is that your personal IP?
No, I can make it available for you. Yeah, it won't make sense to people unless it's explained and the context of it. So. Yeah,
we might have to dig deeper, mate.
Yeah, we can do that.
Sorry, anyway, I've interrupted you there. I'm just piecing it all together.
That's all good. So we had a minor panic. We engaged Commerce Commission.
Yep.
Put all these systems and processes in place. I ran it really hard.
Yeah.
And when I mean hard, there wasn't a transaction that went through HRV that I didn't know about. Yeah, and if there was a discount applied to that transaction, they called me for permission on the discount.
Yeah.
Called an Uncle Tom call. And so, to put that in perspective, Alex, this is probably the work ethic peak. My phone would start about 7 a.m. And finish at 11 p.m. and I'm available 7 days a week because I changed the business from being a 5-day, 8 to 5 trading model to a morning to evening, effectively 7 days.
Okay. So you're fully committed to get yourselves out the shit and trade it.
And we did.
I think one thing that speaks volumes there is that you contacted the Commerce Commission and basically fronted up and said, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, Commerce Commission is not someone you want to tangle with, and we tangled with them later in the business.
Yeah,
when we were selling it, actually. That's another story. Not through sales processes, by the way. That was through some material we had on our website that we'd had third party checked that Commerce Commission didn't agree with us on. So,
yep. Leave that one there. Yep. I hear you.
Yeah. So we worked really hard on it. We had another moment that was a catalyst for us in that business. Actually, so this isn't a very good story to tell on a podcast, but I'm gonna tell it anyway.
Love that.
We had a Christmas function. Now, one thing you got to identify is you get 4 guys, kind of like myself, slightly different background, different skill sets.
Yeah.
That comes with a bit of ego.
Yep.
A fair bit of confidence and probably cockiness with it from all of us. And as a result, it was very tricky for all 4 of us to stay in our lane.
Yep.
And we had different functions, one being the CE function, one being the finance function, one being the marketing function, and me looking after the sales side. And I'd always take exception to the finance gentleman telling me how to run the sales team.
Yeah.
So I would, in return, due to my banking background, tell them how to run the finance function.
Yeah.
And so
that would have caused a bit of friction, I would imagine.
We had safe words.
Oklahoma.
Pineapple. But we had a catalyst moment. We were actually at a Christmas function. This is a terrible story. We're at a restaurant called Chibo in Parnell. Yeah. Really great restaurant run by another guy called Jeremy. And we'd had a long lunch, and we got to that stage in lunch we were having espresso martinis.
Yep.
Right. So we're just about to enter dinner time, espresso martinis. And my then partner, Adrian, who's been a dear friend since I've been a young kid, I met her at high school, she came to pick me up, and she ended up staying. So we ended up staying for dinner as well. And she said something really quite profound. And obviously I wasn't drunk enough that it still landed with me.
Yeah, okay.
And she said, if you guys could all remove your egos and understand that you're all very, very good at what you do and let each other stay in your lane, you'll be a huge success. And it was kind of a catalyst. And so, as I said, we were turning around 30 million. Within 2 years, we were over 110 million.
Holy hell.
Making 13 at an EBITDA level.
Yeah.
With a 97% brand recognition with coverage from Kaitaia to Bluff, selling a product every 6 minutes.
Hey, there's not many people in New Zealand who don't know HRV, so you did something right.
Yeah, I mean, from a brand recognition perspective, we were really proud of it, 97%.
So that moment, was it profound for everyone? Did it land with everyone and that was kind of what was the catalyst, or did it land with you and you kind of saw the road?
It definitely landed with me. It landed with the others as well, and just I think the way we engaged with each other changed. You know, we let each other do what we needed to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think the egos were still there, and I believe you have to have a little bit of an ego as long as you can balance that with some humility, reflection.
Of course you do.
But ego at the end of the day is what gets you out of bed. It's what makes you pick the phone up when no one else will. It makes you get out in front of stuff. It's kind of a requirement in some.
Well,
some
it's
regards.
almost like a shield, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, we all. I don't care how experienced you are, how confident you are. We all have that before we walk into certain situations. Oh. And if you can put that armor on, which is your ego, and walk in, that's how you do it.
Mate, I'm giving a speech to 200 people tomorrow. Do you think I'm going to be in a good mood beforehand?
No.
I'll come out of it okay.
Yeah,
I'm not the guy you want to be hanging around.
Yeah, you'll be grumpy as shit, and then you'll be the king of the world afterwards.
Yeah, totally. That's exactly how it works.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. That's quite inspirational,
Oh, it was a hell of a journey. Would I do it again? Don't think so.
So there's just one thing in there that I think relates. It will relate quite well to, you know, the people who listen to this, and it's the ego and just the ability to have respect for the other people you work with, delegate, and trust that they'll get on with it if they're the right people. You know, it's age-old owners. They want to scale, but they can't let go of anything, all that sort of stuff. So that's a great example of that actually working and becoming a massive success. You know?
It's a constant struggle. I struggle with it in business to this day.
Yeah.
You know, and you end up with your trusted lieutenants, trusted people in the business, but then there's other people where, you know, as much as you delegate, you're still unsure if you're going to get the result you need. So
yeah, I mean, there's training, there's systems, but there's always an element of it being the right people and building them companies within, building those pillars within your company, sort of thing. You know, as you say.
I mean, to quote, you know, it's a famous All Black saying, but change the man or change the man.
Yeah.
So
swap them out or train them.
Yeah, correct. Train them and change them. Or change them out.
Yeah. So, 100%.
I think everyone deserves a ride on a bus, right? Just not necessarily my bus.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Well, I being honest, though, I think there always is a question. You've got to, if that person isn't working, you've kind of got to go, is that on me or is that on them? Like, have I given them all the resources? Have I given them the training? Have I given them the time? You know?
Yeah, and so that's a really powerful thing to ask, because there's no way I could say that I've done 100% by people every time.
Yeah, totally. But, you know, you still got to ask that question.
Yeah.
Did I pick the right person for the job? Because maybe you've given somebody a shot who wasn't ready, you know?
Done that lots of times.
But we all know when you get the right person, you can put them in most situations and they are the right person.
My biggest reflection on business, and it's not going to be what you think it is, it's not selling a business for, you know, a lot of money. It's watching people grow.
Yeah.
It's my biggest sense of pride is the people I've worked with over the years and looking at where they are in their life now, their roles, their personal life, their happiness, their comfort. It gives me an immense sense of pride, and that's what actually gets me out of the bed in the morning. Back in my 20s, I was an asshole. I chased money, and it didn't satisfy me. These days, when I reflect, so if you and I are going to have a beer at the pub, I'll be able to tell you the stories about the people I've worked with and the houses they bought and the beautiful families that they're able to spend time with and the quality of life that they've got. And that's the bit that spins my wheels.
I think a lot of people relate to that. Like, obviously being an electrician by trade, I hated the tools.
Did you?
Hated it, mate. Still do.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the most obviously it was great when you got into running jobs and quoting and winning work and da-da-da-da-da. But the most rewarding thing, because we get these sniveling little 16-year-old guys and girls, and you're not just training them in a trade, you're part of them growing up.
Yeah.
You're a huge part of what they turn into, you know. So
totally.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to apologise to everybody who worked with me when they were younger. But it's really rewarding. Like, it sounds stupid, but, you know, it's a cliche, but to some extent you you go and do an apprenticeship, you're going to get the piss taken out of you for 4 years, right? That day, maybe when they're in the second, third, fourth year and they turn around and they really get you with a comeback, you're like, brings a tear to your eye, mate.
Yeah.
So proud of them,
Yeah.
It's bloody good. So I was actually on the phone to another spiker yesterday, was saying that. Old Muggsy, shout out.
Yeah.
It's about the guys.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And it's so valuable.
Took me a long time to learn that, Alex.
Yeah, well,
long time to learn that.
Yeah, and I think it's another reflection point as well, because
all the things you get told that are going to make you happy growing up, right? And unfortunately, human beings are very consumer driven, consumer based, and some people's idea of success is the size of their house or how many cars they own or whatever, holidays they take, wardrobe, whatever it may be. I don't believe it is. I think that the only thing you're going to leave with is stories. So make them bloody good ones.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I want to be bashed up full of bloody awesome stories about fucking shit up.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Because that's all you've got.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because the human condition is that everything's got to be bigger and better and new every time. Like, why do you need the new iPhone 16? Like, it does absolutely nothing different to the iPhone 15. Or, you've got these incredibly successful companies where everybody involves filthy rich and da-da-da-da-da. But every year they've got to have that 15, 20% growth or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just the condition, isn't it? But as you're right, I think the people who are happy realize, okay, money isn't an issue for us necessarily. Like, we've kind of fixed that problem. We're not filthy rich necessarily. That's a worry that's gone. But it's the memories, the moments, the people, and the yarns, like you say.
But it's interesting because one thing I've learned, and this is a reflection on me and my career as well, is as I've learnt what's important to me and I've become happy as a result, my business success has improved in every measure as well.
Yeah,
because I'm more pure in what I do, and I don't give a shit about a lot of other things that people do.
Yeah, you're not chasing something. You're doing it for the right reasons. That makes a lot of sense.
It's interesting. Like, and probably one of my other big learning, and especially in sales, is our lives are built around stories. So if you think of the history of the human being, it's all built on storytelling. And so, that's a section I haven't told you about, but storytelling is a big piece of work that I do when I'm working with sales teams, organisations.
Yeah,
because people want to hear stories.
Yeah,
but they don't want to hear shit about product or detail or features, but they want to hear stories, and stories that are relatable to them because it makes you a human being.
Okay. Have we still got time to dig into I'm dying. I want the tactics. What have you got for us? So obviously you've got some real knowledge about this. You've written all these processes and stuff. We talked about it briefly the other day. What are your steps or what are your tips to the listeners on a real base level, or your principles for sales, if you like?
Yeah, I'll jump into that. But the one thing I do want to say, and this country has a real issue with it, is sales is not a bad thing. Oh. Okay, I'm very, very proud to call myself. I don't necessarily call myself a salesman. I call myself a businessman. But sales is a lot of what I do, and I think to be in a sales, you have to be a really effective communicator. Is the first thing. You need to reflect. You need to have humility. You need to be honest. Salespeople get perceived as being dishonest for some reason, or treated badly as a result. And I don't believe that. I have this incredibly powerful network in this country and offshore that I lean on, utilise, share, collaborate, and work with, which has bode me well through my whole life. And it's through creating genuine relationships based on trust, empathy, understanding, and that parties are both getting a reciprocally good outcome from each other. And so I find sales powerful. And so if I think of salespeople in this country, I think of Sir John Key.
Yeah.
As an example. I think he's probably one of the best salespeople this country's seen. I think Dame Jacinda Ardern was a very good salesperson.
And they were selling personal brand is what the public saw, right?
Totally. Yeah. And so I don't classify sales as selling a product or selling a service. I classify sales as the ability to form strong relationships where both parties benefit.
Yeah.
That's the essence of it.
At the end of the day, again, just to add to that, I very much see it as your value is solving a problem for them. Whether you're selling a service, a product, or whatever, a good salesperson can, communicate well enough to find out exactly what is the problem and then offer the solution. Which is, how's that a bad thing?
The other thing I've sort of learned about sales over the years is, I have lots of techniques and tips and processes and things like that. But as I've gotten older and fatter and greyer and probably grumpier, I've found just the more easy, simple, straight up, agree outcomes up front, I find it easier to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Really simple.
Totally. It's always the same. If it seems too good to be true or it seems out of reach or it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Or if it doesn't make sense, it's bullshit.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah, totally agree.
So sales process?
Yeah.
We're in home?
Let's get into it.
I'll check my notes because I won't remember it all correctly.
Right, everybody get your notebook out. Here we go. We're in.
These are 10 steps that I've put together that are designed to be basic, but you can dig into each step and spend an inordinate amount of time on it.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what I would say about these steps is they're based on psychology.
Yep.
Okay. So everything I do around training for sales is based on psychology. Okay. So get the art of reflection because you're going to need it to understand the steps. Now, the first step I talk about in terms of this is me in a car, in a van, turning up to, let's say, a property, a residential property, and I'm selling a product and or a service. Now, this is going to sound really old school, and it's kind of designed to, and it's probably going to provoke some of your listeners / viewers, but I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. The first thing you have to do is be prepared.
Yep.
All right. Now, people go, what do you mean by that? It's a bit basic. Of course I'm prepared. What I mean by that is that have a clean vehicle because you're going to pull it up their driveway, right? You've got one chance of making a first impression. Pull up with a dirty vehicle, see what sort of impression you make. I'm a clean freak. I'm also slightly OCD, so you pull up my house, you're toast.
Yeah.
Because it shows you don't give me it shows me you don't give a shit.
I'm going to go and clean my van tonight.
Well, I look at stuff like that, and yeah, I'm a bit old school, ex-Navy and all those sort of things, but if the vehicle's not clean, it's not well sign written, it looks like a piece of shit, then that's the sort of quality of work that I expect from that person as a result.
Yeah.
And so being prepared for me means so many different things, If you're parking the van up the driveway, for Christ's sake, get rid of the McDonald's wrappers on the dashboard and the empty smoke packets and last week's newspaper and, your Yankees hat or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Clear that stuff off, If you are pulling up in your van or your car, make sure everything's stacked tidy inside, lined up correctly in the right place.
Yep.
Because once you get out of your vehicle and then you get in the back of it and you want to pull out, I don't know, your briefcase, your tool case, your ladder or whatever, if you're searching around, there's shit from arsehole to breakfast time and the homeowner's looking at you out of the window.
Yeah, what kind of outfit is
so
this?
So it's like, do I want to deal with this guy? This is all the things that are going through their head. So preparation's a huge thing. And I'm a massive believer in it. Have a look at your personal self in terms of how you present.
Yep.
You might be crawling around in roof cavities or under houses or whatever, but it doesn't mean you need to look like a bag of shit.
Totally agree with that.
Tidy. So that's sort of the first step. Now, I can talk into preparation for ages, and it can be basic stuff like have a torch, make sure it's got batteries. I take more than one pen into the house with me because chances are one's going to run out. Yeah. I take expandable ladders in with me because I don't want to climb on people's washing machines if I'm looking in their ceiling cavity. So when I talk preparation, I'm talking lots and lots of different things. You make sure you've got everything you need to do a great job and that you're organised with it.
I'm just going through in my head going, I've turned up without all those things.
A lot of people do.
Sorry,
man.
I'm going to have to come back.
A lot of people do, man. Yeah. I say it all the time, and to be fair, I've done it a bit myself. And then I give myself what I call a check-up from the neck up and make sure I don't do it again.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, preparation's massive, and it's probably one of the bits I see people let themselves down. And because you don't know and you don't sort of think about it but you've made a first impression.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it can be hard to come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
It can be hard to come back from that. We'll all have stories. You'll have a story. You know, I get it. I walk into a retail environment and get, hey, you're right there, or you're just looking, or not a decent greeting. Like, the person will look like a bag of shit. I immediately will turn on my heel and walk out.
Yeah. Very much. I don't know what it is. I have a thing, if I walk into a clothing store and somebody comes over and, like, says anything more than, like, let me know if you need anything, I'm out of there.
Oh, mate.
I'm a shocker for it.
I've just been training one of our biggest retailers, actually, literally just last week, and it's really interesting. They don't map the buyer's journey, but they don't understand the basic psychology of how to greet someone correctly. You know, and this retailer sells homewares, you know, furniture through to whitewares, through to other things, and they're our biggest by a long, long way. And they don't run a formal process. They don't spend any time on psychology of people, and so they kind of get their business by fishing, which is advertising, to pull people in, you know, whereas they could be getting far better results with some training and processes and understanding in place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so, really interesting. Next step.
Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent there.
it's all good. So, first step, be prepared. Next step, now this is, once again, we're in the vehicle, we've pulled up to a residential property. The next step is observation.
Yep.
Okay, now this is powerful. And this is where people cock up. So you pull up to a house, it's going to tell you a bunch of things before you meet the people living inside it, okay? So if you pull up to a house and it's got a white picket fence and it's got buxus hedges and the lawns are immaculate, they look like a bowling green, you know, you've got trimmed hedges, everything's painted perfectly, you know, it's that picture card house, that tells you something. It tells you that aesthetics and the look and feel of things are important to that homeowner, okay? So if I go back to step one, being prepared, and you've turned up to that house and your van's dirty or you look like a bag of shit, what's your chances of getting the business off them?
Oh, you're in trouble.
You're not going to get it.
No.
You're not going to get it because you don't align with how they live.
Yep.
Okay, you don't align with how they live, and so that's going to be a real challenge
They
to
don't
overcome.
want you parked on the driveway because they'll care about what the neighbours think, etc.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it was one of my comments was going to be, if your van is dirty, and they do get that way, by the way, is park it on the road.
Yeah.
Because you have to make a call. Right? I've always parked up driveways because I've been invited to an appointment with them, and it shows that I'm there and authority, care about what I do, you know. So I'd always park up the driveway. The exception being if my vehicle's dirty, I'll park on the road.
Yeah, fair enough.
So observation. Some other observation cues which are a little bit weird is things like, let's say you see a Haynes Hunter boat parked up a driveway. You need to talk to the homeowner about that boat because they care about it. If you see a Harley Davidson parked in the garage, you need to talk to them about Harley Davidson. If you see 6 mountain bikes, you need to talk to them about the mountain bikes.
Connections.
Correct. Yeah. It makes you relatable all of a sudden. It's
common ground.
Human being talking to another human being. Hey, mate, I love fishing too. Yeah. Haven't got a boat right now, but did some fishing in the Bay of Islands the other day. It was epic. Yeah. There's your conversation. Bang. How often do you get out on the Haynes? Brilliant. What do you fish for? Yeah. Right. What you're doing when you engage like that is you're working out their personality type and how to engage with them. Yeah. And that's why it's important with observation to pick up cues.
Oh, totally. And hobbies are the easiest one, Because otherwise, particularly if you're not naturally gifted at conversation, you know, you're going to walk in. I've got walls in my house too. Yeah, sick.
Yeah,
you know.
Essentially, mate. See, I'm not naturally gifted at conversation either. I'm actually a bit of an introvert, and so you have to kind of learn this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some other cues with this as well, right? So the Haynes Hunter doesn't just tell you they like fishing; it tells you they have disposable income.
It does indeed.
Yeah. Right, because they've got to put gas in that thing, they've got to put bait on it. Fishing lures ain't cheap. So disposable income. They'll generally need another vehicle to tow it. Some other basic ones, you walk up to the door, there's still observation mode. If you find a recycle bin and it's got bottles of wine in it, what's a bottle of wine? $20 a pop? $25 a pop? Disposable income. Mm-hmm. Right. So you get lots of different little visual cues of things going on. You can also pull up to a house. You know, I had one in, I'll deviate, slight short story. I was out the back of Kaikoui up north.
Yep.
I looked like a dickhead. I was in a pinstripe suit and oh no, right, it's judgment's call. I told you I don't get it right all the time. And my Mercedes to make it worse.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
I pull up to a house and I did what I ask every salesperson, everyone I work with not to do. I judged. Okay, now judging's a big thing to learn. I judged the situation. I pulled up to this house and it was the complete opposite way I live. Missing weatherboards. No flashing around the joinery, half the windows gone, blanket over the window, the tin on the roof, corrugated, hadn't been painted in 50 years, rusty, long grass, big-ass dog, chooks everywhere, a couple of old shitty utes, don't know if they're registered, warranted. This is my worst idea of a nightmare, right?
I'm wasting my time.
I'm in a pinstripe Armani suit getting out of my Mercedes, worried I'm going to step in chook shit, thinking, oh my God, this place is going to fall down.
Yeah.
Hell of a lesson. I got into that house and I got told off. I got a cup of tea out of the lady. She was a real sweetheart. Sat me down and she was brave enough. She was a school teacher. She reminded me of my mother, actually.
Yeah.
And said, Jeremy, your priorities are different to mine. Mine is about the health and the well-being of my family and my mokapuna.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do with you now is I'm going to put you on the back of my ute and I'm going to drive you around to the other 4 houses I own and you're going to put a system into each one of these 4 houses, please.
Yeah.
So she did. She stuck me on the back of this white piece of shit ute, drove me around the back blocks of Kaikoui.
Videos of this?
3 other houses that she had family and one tenanted.
Yeah.
And we came back to her house, which was dilapidated and buggered, and did a deal with me for just over $40,000 to ensure that those homes were warm and dry for the winter and people could live comfortably.
Yeah, that would have been an eye-opener, eh?
Taught me a massive lesson. That's the beauty of in-home selling is I learnt lessons all the time. Still do. Every time I do a call. It's one of the things. That's that reflection piece.
Yeah.
Observation, next point. The next one after observation, this can sound really basic, is what I call enter, and it's how you enter the property. And this is a big thing for guys, actually. If you're 6'2", or you're built like a proverbial brick shithouse, you need to be really mindful how you enter a property. You need to stand down on the second step so that you're not standing over the top of people. You need to be really mindful of, I used to get some of my guys to shrink down a bit. It's a technique they teach in places like the police. Because you've got that opportunity to intimidate immediately.
I've never suffered with that problem.
Neither have I, mate. I'm a short ass. I think you're taller than me. But yeah, how you enter a property. So what you got to remember is when you pull up someone's driveway, they are looking out a window at you.
Yep.
Right? Whether you like it or not, they are. At least one of the couple is, right? They could be in the sunroom, they could be in the kitchen, they could be in the living room, whatever. They're looking out a window at you. Then they're looking to see how you enter their property, right? If you're a tradie, take your shoes off.
Yep.
I take my shoes off anyway.
Oh, standard.
Even if I'm in a suit. Yeah, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. So take your shoes off. Now, I used to hold my shoes in my hand when I knock on the door because it sends a message. The message is, I respect you and your home, and I'm showing you, hence my shoes are in my hand, and I'll place them there. When you greet them really well. Hi, my name's Jeremy. I'm from Fujitsu. I've got a meeting with you at 2:00. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah.
Really crisp, clean, pronunciation. Don't mumble. Eye contact, strong. We used to say have sex with the customer. So smile, engage, exchange. Right?
Okay,
so have sex with them on the doorstep.
All right, got
basically.
you. Yeah.
Smile, engage.
You don't want to say that to the wrong person. You'd be bloody on the news again.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen the opposite of that. I've seen people drag their ass up steps and leave their shoes on and knock, and then they mumble and their heads down, no eye contact. You completely blow it at that moment.
Yeah.
Completely blow it at that moment.
Couldn't agree more. I've seen it many a times.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly teaching tradesmen how to do service work and customer service.
Yep. I've seen the opposite of that, and I've had my full noise, boiler room sales guys rock up over the top, kind of yelling, shouty, full noise, and completely blow it that way too.
Yeah.
So it's just that real measured balance.
Yeah. Just about being clear, confident, polite.
Yeah, correct. 100%. Yeah. It's amazing how many people don't do it though.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. And probably because they don't know all the confidence isn't there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we enter the greeting, which I've spoken about. We do something else once we've got on, once we've greeted them, is we observe again.
Okay.
So we get into the house, we start observing again immediately. We're making small talk. How's your day been, Alex? You know, you're going to watch the rugby this weekend. You know, how do you think the Blues are going this season? All that sort of chit-chat.
Yeah.
But we're observing and we're looking for stuff we can talk to them about again. So we're looking for art on the wall. We're looking for, might be a pilot's license. It could be an 85-inch telly. It could be a fish tank. I don't know. It could be it's anything and everything. You know, it could be a gaming console. It's something that you can talk to them about, and also good if it's something relatable. Mm-hmm. Plus, I look for other cues, right? So if I'm going there to talk to them about heat pumps or heating, ventilation, or something to do with that, I'm going to look for things like asthma, inhalers. You know, I'm going to look for any medicinal pills or medication or obvious signs of health challenges in the home. I'm going to be feeling how damp and cold and dry.
Bit of mould on the skirting board.
Part of the reason I take my shoes off, mate, is I can feel the moisture through the socks.
Yeah, totally. Blankets on the couch, anything like that.
Actually, for anyone that's on this, if you haven't done it, go and get your company name, right, and your phone number and put it on a pair of socks, right?
Yeah?
Brilliant. Yeah, because everybody's got messed up socks, right, and holes in them and shit like that. Put your company name and number on them, and then when you're there, if they agree to buy, if you give them a set of socks, I've sold more heat pumps in this country than anyone by giving away pairs of socks.
Really?
Yeah, totally. With HRV and a phone number on them.
Okay, all right. There's a solid tip for you, easy one.
Well, because most guys are terrible with their socks and they stick their toes through them or the holy
they do.
or whatever. Yeah,
they do.
So
yeah,
socks.
all right, I like that. Yeah, we'll take that.
So we've got into the house. We're observing. What we need to do next is we need to get to the kitchen table.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is where the business gets done, is it?
Yeah, well, kind of. We don't sit at the sofa. Okay, so if they invite you into their living room and they've got a sofa and a coffee table, do not go there. Because sofas have a TV in front of them, right? And they're designed for husband and wife because they actually don't like each other.
Yeah.
And they don't want to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So they flick that big black box on in front of them and watch telly.
Yeah.
Right? And when they're doing that, they don't talk.
Yep.
Okay, so they don't talk about business or things related to the home in front of the TV.
No.
They talk about it at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Hey, darling, house is a bit cold this winter. I think we should get someone around to have a look.
Yeah.
Okay, darling, do we have the money for that? Well, not right now, but I could probably save some up in a month, or we'll have to see if there's a finance option, or I've got some in my savings account. You know, we can jointly do it. That's the chat that happens at the dinner table. You know, it doesn't happen at a couch. So get to the dinner table. Even if it's a hoarder's house, take the newspapers off the dinner table, but get to the dinner table because that's where business happens.
Yep.
Try not to sit across from a man, okay? Because if you and I stand up, it's a fighting stance.
Yep.
Okay. So if we
squaring up pretty much.
Yeah, squaring up. That's exactly right. So you always sit on the side.
Yeah.
If you sit next to a female, sit on an angle here as well. That's a nurturing side.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a little bit of psychology where you sit
body
at the table. Yeah. Don't sit at the head of the table either if you're a salesperson or in there. Unless you want to be a dominant dickhead. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of positioning there in terms of where you sit, but you must sit at the dining room table.
Okay.
If you get offered food or drink, and in particular from a non-European background, so let's say a Filipino family, etc., accept it. Because if you want to offend, turn down the offer of food or drink, and you'll immediately offend. Okay, so some other basics when you're at the table is
what if it's bloody awful?
Take one bite.
But just accept.
Take one bite and then pretend you grew up on a farm with me with tripe. And then you'll get over it.
Just get it down,
pretty much. There's some fundamental basics in the home with that stuff that you have to be mindful of.
Okay, got you.
So we get to the table, right, and we sit down. Now, there's some things I'll talk about in terms of cues and stuff, but what I do next is this is a real Kiwiism, is I do what's called have a yarn.
Yep.
Have a yarn. So I'm not selling. What I'm doing is I'm having a chat with the person across the table or the couple, and I'm shooting the shit. I'm talking about the Haynes Hunter. I'm talking about the Harley Davidson. I'm talking about the fish tank. I'm talking about the PS5 or whatever the latest version of that is.
Yep.
Not necessarily from a point where I know anything about those things, but just getting their input. Now, the reason I'm having a yarn with them as a psychology piece is I want to know how they communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how the couple's dynamic works.
Who's in charge?
I want to see if there's strong eye contact between them. I'll often be able to tell if they've made a decision on what they're doing just by the way they're talking.
Yep.
I'm looking for whether they, like I have what's called a driver personality. So for anyone on this, it's worth doing some homework into personalities. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of work in that area in terms of how you communicate with different personalities. I'm what's called a DI. I'm a driver. And so I'm about 10% of the population, and as a result, I piss a lot of people off. So I have to adjust my behaviour significantly when I'm in home.
Okay.
I have to back it right off, soften it up, and be the guy I am at the pub.
Yeah.
Not the guy I am in business.
Yeah.
Most
up everyone's ass, I would imagine.
Yeah. Most people in this country are amiable. So 54% of the population in this country are amiable. And so quite different how you approach them. 17% are expressive, 19% analytical, and 11% are drivers.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so you handle those people very differently.
Yeah. Well, as you said, we're just touching the surface on this. There's
loads to
years and years of study into this from yourself. And
there's a lot of psychology in it. So we get there, we have a yarn. Now, people always ask me, how long do you have a yarn for? If you're in my house and I'm a driver, I'm time poor. I already know what I want. I know how much I've got to spend. You're not going to change my mind. I'll basically tell you. So if you're having a yarn to me, a few minutes, because I'll tell you when I'm ready to move on. I'm not here to shoot the shit with you. I don't give a shit about the blues.
Yeah.
I'm here to buy a product off you. Yeah. I just need to know when you can put it in and you can give me a deal.
Yeah.
Very simple. So the reason I use a statement of intent is for exactly that reason, okay? It's to get agreeance from the client, right? Yeah, actually, that all sounds pretty good apart from, right? There'll be 3 objections you'll get. Money, which you just used on me.
Yep.
And with NZ Trade Group, we've obviously got a fantastic finance package in place, which straight away takes money off the table.
Q card. So we can finance, 100%.
Yeah. And money's an easy thing to deal with anyway, because remember, we've just seen a Haynes Hunter or bottles of wine in a recycle bin. We can go around things like cost reallocation. We can remove things like Sky TV and other incidental expenses, because there's nothing more important than the health, well-being, warmth and comfort of your family.
Yeah.
No one can argue with that either.
No.
So it's statement of intent, really powerful. The 3 objections, you get the money one, you get the authority one. Hey, Alex, is your wife here today?
Yeah.
She's not? She's at work? Great. Okay, but you would have spoken to her, because you wouldn't have a stranger in your house without talking to your wife first, so therefore you've discussed the budget anyway and the timing. So do we need to give her a call, or is she comfortable with you making a call on things?
Just on that one, because I deal with that one now and again. How do you react with if they're like insistent, no, I do need to speak to my partner first?
Great, let's give her a call.
Because a lot of the time they'll try to push it out. It's a get out clause, right? I'll have to speak to my wife, we'll come back to you.
Great. And so, Alex, your wife's at work?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. What time does she finish work?
7.
About 7? Okay, great. Let's say you get home at 7:30. Yeah?
Yep.
And you find me in your house sitting at the kitchen table with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Would you find that unusual?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would too. So that would mean if I'm in your home as an invited consultant, guest, contractor, supplier of services, you would have spoken about the reason I'd be there beforehand?
Yes.
Great. So you've talked about product, timing and price then?
Right. Got you. Okay.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't be that direct and blunt about it, but that's
I see what you're saying.
Actually the route you go down.
Yeah.
Because it's true. Because
interesting.
If you walk into someone's home and I'm sitting there with their wife, or vice versa, the husband, you can't tell me those two haven't spoken about it.
As long as you got the sale, mate.
They've spoken about it. They do. And what they talk about, hey, have we got the money right now? When do we want to get this in? And what other considerations?
Yeah, very true.
This isn't made before you get to the house.
Yeah.
All they're doing if you get to the house is sense checking whether they want to work with you or the other company.
Yep.
Based on Once again, are you prepared? Are you tidy? How have you conducted yourself? Have you bothered talking to them about themselves and their personality? Learned how to communicate with them? Have you made your purpose really clear?
Yeah.
Hence statement of intent. So that's all they're testing you for. It's like a dickhead test.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Are you a fuckwit or can you pass? Yeah. Sweet. All right, we'll buy it.
That's basically what it is. And this is that whole human psychology piece. So if the homeowner goes, hey, I need to talk to my wife, they're actually not saying that. They're saying, Jeremy, we don't like your approach, or there's something about the way you're conducting yourself or handling where I don't feel comfortable exchanging funds for whatever it is you're promoting.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
No, that
they don't have the balls to say it.
Yeah.
Because we're not trained to have the balls to say that.
Because if somebody just goes, I don't like you, you've got to be like, okay, but what about the product? And what about the price?
Yeah, I'd say I've had a lot of people buy things off me that don't like me, but they trust me.
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
I very much like that statement of intent because...
Oh, it's powerful. Yeah, run it by your mum. Oh, I haven't got the money this week, so I can't stop at McDonald's
for
you.
Which is the time one.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Have you spent your pocket money? Have you been good? It's all psychology.
Yeah, yeah. And it's because... Obviously, when you're a kid, you're innocent. You've got no shame, so it's in you to ask those things. Hey,
kids are the best at it.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It sounds creepy, but
bring back child labour. We'll get them selling.
Yeah. Oh, they do. They sell to their parents every day.
Didn't mean that, by the way. Just disclaimer there. Yeah, no, that's really interesting.
Yeah,
but I love that statement of intent. That's
The statement of intent.
That's bloody gold.
Word and language you are comfortable with. Don't use my language. Use your own. Just go, Alex. Look, today, mate, we'll suss out your house. We'll see what's required to keep you warm in the winter. It's going to make your wife super happy. I'll make it affordable for you, and then we'll get it sorted for you, mate. Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Sound all right? Yeah. And that's not sophisticated language. That's Kiwiism.
Yeah.
Hey, mate, it'll be great to get your house sorted out. Make sure you're comfy for the winter, and, I'll make sure we can suss it and afford it.
Yeah, yeah.
You're all good with that? Real Kiwi language.
I am indeed. Indeed.
If I was in a boardroom or a business situation, I use completely different wording.
Yeah, but it's the same thing.
But it's the same outcome.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing, and this is the outcome of it.
Yeah.
It's a piece of gold.
No, that's interesting. I love the bit about the 3 objections as well.
Time, money, authority.
It can only be one of those 3.
One of the 3. They're all easy to deal with too.
Yeah,
once you understand how to deal with them, because that's, once again, that reflection psychology piece.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's listening, watching to this, think about the conversations you have at home when you're buying a capital item for your house. So if I'm buying a sofa, you run it by her indoors to get permission.
Yeah.
Because if I turn up with a new sofa and I hadn't run it by her, I'd probably get my head put through the sofa.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't do it. You don't spend capital money on your property without running it by partner, loved one.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've done a statement of intent. I do what I call a pitch next, and that's where I actually do talk about what's going on in the home, heating, cooling, mould, whatever there is. Asthma is a trigger. Asthma is a big thing, by the way. Every second house in this country, it's a major thing. So if you don't know about stuff like filtration, learn it. I'll be really bold with these statements. Actually, the products I'm involved with, so Fujitsu, we're commoditised.
Yeah,
HVAC, heat pumps, we're commoditised. Now, when you have a commoditised product, it becomes a price thing, basically, right? And people compete on price. The best way to get out of that is to understand your value proposition and develop it. So for me, it's very easy. It's people. I carry product in the country. I carry parts in the country. I've got the best service team, and I've got this amazing filtration in our product.
Yeah,
I've been awarded the Blue Butterfly as a result with Asthma Society. So I have some value propositions there to leverage on, and Trade Group and J.A. Russell have the same in their own unique way, but you need to know what they are.
Yeah.
And that'll lift you out of the commoditized discussion,
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to compete on price.
Yeah, it's interesting in New Zealand with HVAC and stuff because you very rarely go into a house in the UK without central heating. Or,
totally.
Built to a certain code that's fully insulated and that. I mean, myself, I bought a house at the end of last year. It wasn't insulated. It's got no source of heating and cooling apart from ceiling fans. It's just crazy. It should be a standard.
Yeah, it's not in this country.
I mean, you've got healthy homes and stuff like that, but it's getting there, but it's not 100%, is it?
We live in the equivalent of cow sheds from the UK.
Yeah,
basically.
Houses.
Yeah. Homeowners are a lot more educated these days, but they're not necessarily educated in the right way.
Yeah.
We do some fundamental things wrong in this country. We'll go from a living room that's 24 degrees and we'll move to a bedroom that's 16.
Yep.
That puts the body into thermal shock. I don't know how many people know what thermal shock is, but you shift 5 degrees temperature one room to another, you put your body in thermal shock.
What does that
all
do
sorts
to
of
you?
issue. Well, that's what creates COPD challenges. So respiratory challenges. We have a thing called the winter mortality rate in New Zealand.
Does it go up?
We have 800 people die between the months of May and September. How big is our road toll?
No idea.
350 people. So we have more than double that die from the winter mortality rate between the months of May and September in this country due to living in cold, damp, horrible conditions in their house.
I did not know that.
Well, go to on a Saturday night for shits and giggles.
So hang on, 350 people a month or a year die on?
No, that's a road toll.
Yeah, but on the road.
On the road, a year, right? And what do we hear about Christmas, Easter, Labour weekend, King's birthday weekend? What are we going to hear about?
Yeah. Road safety.
Road safety, road toll, person's died, person's had an accident, all over the radio, all over the TV.
And more people die in those few months from winter mortality.
Winter mortality rate. Due to respiratory issues. No one knows about it, mate, because it's not published.
Well, yeah, they won't be.
And they don't publish it for a number of reasons. Who's the biggest landlord?
Government.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad press for councils, etc.
Yeah, so I don't actually advise this, but I'll tell you anyway. Pop down to a hospital at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. You'll see two things at ED. You'll see drunk people that have been in fights, and you'll see people that are struggling to breathe.
Because of the cold.
Correct, yeah. And we've got some real fallacies and problems in this country. I grew up in a farmhouse. It was adequate at the times of how things were built back then.
Yeah.
These days it's miles away. I was told to put a blanket on my bed if I got cold. Right?
Yeah.
Put a blanket on my bed. No one has thought about the physiology of that. Okay. Yeah. So when I'm cold, my blood goes to my brain, my lungs, and my heart, because they're my essentials in terms of organs, right? So it's this area here. Yeah. Protects it.
And it lets your extremities cool off to protect
Correct.
Your organs. Yeah.
So what I do is I put a blanket on and I send all my blood out to my capillaries and my fingers and my toes and my extremities.
Which isn't helping you at all.
But what am I breathing in?
Cold
air.
Yeah.
So all I've done is taken the protection that my body provides, removed it, and exacerbated the situation, made it worse.
It's funny because it's funny what you get used to. Last time I went back to the UK, as I say, Central Heating, so it would have been -1 in Bolton from where I'm from. Last time I went back, I had to keep going outside in a t-shirt because the central heating was too much for me now.
Yeah.
You know, but God, it's a drier, healthier environment inside the house.
Yeah.
You know,
you look at asthma statistics in this country, and you compare them to somewhere like Sweden. Yeah. It's mind-blowingly different.
I've got a mate who's moving to Aussie because his kids suffer so badly with asthma and they just can't do anything.
And, oh boy, this is a subject. We can go down a rabbit hole, this one. So the challenge you got with asthma, if you go and see a doctor, is they'll prescribe an inhaler. Right?
What's that? Patch the problem rather than fix it?
Yeah.
So it's essentially steroids for your lungs,
well, so diagnosis without prognosis is malpractice.
Yeah.
Okay. So what your mate needs to do is go home and see if he's got carpet. Mm-hmm. And if he has, he needs to take it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why is that?
Because if we take a pinhead, 10 dust mites can fit on the top of that. The human body can only filter down to 10 micron.
Yeah.
Right. So dust mites go through your natural filtration. That's why they end up in capillaries and in your lungs. Carpet's a shocker. Mm-hmm. And people say their kids grew up out of asthma. Mm-hmm. It's not. They don't have their face in it anymore.
Oh, yeah, true.
Your mate needs to change his pillows every 3 months.
Yeah.
Because if it's older than 90 days, you've got 250,000 dust mites living in the pillow. Dust mites have a great life. They do 3 things. They shed skin, they defecate, and then they replicate by shagging.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yep,
and they live on moisture.
Yeah.
they're the trigger.
So they eat shit and root, basically.
It's exactly what they do. And so, but so you got to
live in the dream.
You talk to your mate, ask him when he changed his kid's pillow.
Yeah, okay.
Or the mattress, or the carpet. Well. They're all the triggers. Privet trees outside. There's the environment too. There's so much to it.
Yeah, because people don't think about what's in the house. They're thinking about the environmental thing. Obviously, they might think mold and stuff like that, but certainly not dust mites. It's more, there's so much pollen in the air, or whatever it is.
Could be the temperature of his kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, it's bloody interesting.
18 to 22 degrees at 55% relative humidity. And if they're not sleeping in that, then he's not doing it right by them. Okay. And depending on the age, they should be closer to 22 if they're young.
Yeah, because they can't regulate the same.
Yeah, correct.
Oh, bloody hell.
Right, so we do a pitch. We talk through some product. Next piece of gold, walk and talk. Mm-hmm. Walk and talk. Get up, leave the table, because you both had enough sitting down now. Take visual cues with you. So if you're selling a high wall heat pump, take a fold out with you. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Because this is what it's going to look like.
You're going to place it on the wall and leave it there so that they're visually aligned with it. If you're doing a ducted, with a controller, take the controller with you and get them to place it where they would like it in their house. Yep. Right? Advise them whether it's the right place or not. Put it in their hand. Ownership. Yeah. Psychology, visual, locked in. Yep. If you've got ducted diffusers with you, take the diffusers. Yeah, that's what it's going to look like. Yeah, totally. If you're measuring up for your outdoor unit, take them out there. Mm-hmm. Show them where that's going to be. Talk to them about the noise, the back bedroom, all those sort of things. If you're doing a walk and talk, get up in the roof cavity. Don't be a lazy bastard. Actually get your ass up there and have a proper look around. The amount of times I've found things like heater tanks and stuff because people haven't had a proper nosy around. Yeah. So do that. Walk and talk's powerful. It's those visual cues, and the homeowner starts to own the solution then. Mm-hmm. But take the visual cues with you. 9 out of 10 people do not do that, so they miss the opportunity. Yeah,
totally. And I would imagine for them as well, when you're walking around explaining them to everything, it makes them feel as though you've been extremly thorough as well.
And they're involved. Yeah. Hey, Alex, can you hold this diffuser, please, mate? Yeah. And this keypad, right, or controller, while we walk around, because I'm going to get your advice and input on where you'd like it in your home. Make sure you're happy, and I'm going to be noting it down on the plans. Yeah. And just make sure we're all squared away. You okay with that? Yeah, totally. It's another statement of intent, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all it is. And so they've bought in. They've bought into the process, and they go, shit, this guy's onto it. Yeah. No one else showed me around. They just walked around the house on their own, came back and gave me a price. Yeah. This guy's got me involved, you know. Oh, he's been right up in the roof cavity shining the light. Hey, do you want to come up and have a look?
I'm part of the deal.
Yeah, totally. So, we do a walk and talk. I do inside, outside, underneath, and in roof as well, depending on what I'm selling them.
Yeah, cool.
But be real thorough with it and involve them, and then they buy. Once I've done a walk and talk, I come back to the table. I'll generally have a system that I'll design up, price up, etc. Another piece here, don't use the word quote.
Yeah, you mentioned this the other day.
Use the word proposal. Yeah. Because a quote has negative connotations. It's a legal document. It's obligations on both parties.
Scary.
Yeah, scary. Yeah, and quote is always, I'll take it away and I'm going to price up other things or whatever. Yeah. Don't use the word proposal, because that means we're going to work together. Okay. We're going to get an outcome that's acceptable to both parties. Yep. We're going to create a relationship going forward. Proposal is a positive word. Quote's a negative word.
Yeah, proposal certainly sounds like help.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to sort out a challenge for you. Yeah. We're going to make your house really lovely. So I do that. I put the pricing together. At this stage, this is where I go, so Alex, this is the system we're going to put in. This is the pricing for you. How would you like to pay for it, mate? Yeah.
You want me to answer?
How would you like to pay for it, mate?
Oh, I tell you what, I'll pay cash, mate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What I'll do is I'll grab a small deposit off you, and then we'll lock in a time for install the next 4 or 5 days. So we'll just work out what your calendar looks like now, if that's okay. Yeah. Right, and then I'll get the balance on install. You comfortable with that?
Yeah, perfect, mate.
Sweet, nice one. So when I come back and I close the business, it's really basic. This is the system you need. This is the price. How do you want to pay for it? Yeah. If I know that they've already said, and they will have already said, oh shit, I don't know if I've got enough cash for this, I would have been talking about finance through the process.
Of course.
Yep.
What are the solutions for that? How can we do it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So you're really simple in terms of closing business like that. Another tip is if you're in a region, you've got competitors, we all have competitors in business, go and get 2 other quotes. Get your dear old auntie or your sister to get a member of whoever you compete with around and get them to give them a quote or a price. Yep. Put that in your bag. Because if you're able to pull out your competitors' quotes along with yours, then that stops them from having to get them around. And you've just shown them 3 options, and you can also talk about why you're better and better value proposition, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So take that objection off the table.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
So appointment done. We've got the sale. I then do what's called a rehash because you get what's called buyer's remorse.
Yep.
People cancel on you.
Yeah.
That's why I'll take a deposit. Psychology piece.
Yeah. Totally, because they're in.
They bought. Yeah. But I'll still rehash. And so what I would do with that is I go, hey, Alex, mate, can you do me a favour? Because I like to get better as I go, and I really love helping people to live a better life.
Yeah.
So, mate, can you please write down on this piece of paper the 5 reasons why you're putting a Fujitsu heat pump into your home, just so I'm really clear, mate?
Yeah, okay.
Would you mind doing that?
So it's almost like an on-site survey as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll generally write down the same things, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Kids healthy, better home.
Get me a deal.
Value add to the property, and I've got a great price, whatever it may be.
Yeah, cool.
Well, that's it. There's your 10 steps.
All right, cool. So there obviously plenty to go on there, but plenty more to dig into, as you say. That's a bit of a masterclass on in-home sales there, which is bloody awesome.
It works. I had 120 people following this process basically 7 days a week, and I'd sell a system, whether it was water filtration, heat pump, home ventilation, ERV, every 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, the beauty of us doing it on a platform like the podcast is you can listen to it, you can come back to it. You can write it down. We'll have a chat after this, maybe just about if we can do some links for it or if we can provide this.
Yep.
Whatever works. But again, this might be something we'll do again, mate, because it sounds like you've got plenty in your repertoire if you're happy to give it up.
Yeah. There's no secrets to it. It's I mean, I guess I worked out I needed a process and I needed it refined and it needed to work.
Yeah, totally. But there's not a lot of people who we have access to who've gone and actually laid it out like that, like you've done the work, which is very kind of you to share with us.
That's all good.
Anything you'd like to leave with? Any message? Any tips out there?
Oh, it's the psychology piece is really important, and so the first step or stage of that is to understand that sales is not a bad thing.
Yeah,
sales is what keeps businesses alive. We all get sold to every day. Doesn't matter if you're buying a bottle of milk from the dairy or you've taken your child to McDonald's and bought a Happy Meal for them. You've gotten sold to.
Yeah.
So that's the first part. Then you have to accept it. Be yourself. And try and improve. That's why I talked about reflection early on in the chat.
That's been an underlying message.
Yeah, you have to reflect because if you don't reflect, you can't improve. And you have to adapt and change, and try new things.
Yep.
The worst thing that can happen is someone says no to you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right.
it. But we're all scared of it.
Yeah, well, if you're trying to sell anything, you're probably going to get a fair few no's in your time, so get used to it.
Yeah, if you get good, you get a lot of yeses too.
Yeah. Which is the dopamine now.
Totally. Yeah.
No, but it's been a pleasure having you on, mate. So
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for your time.
First time caller.
And if if you guys have made it all the way through with us, thank you very much for listening. Please like, rate, review wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex.
Cheers. Mate. Cool, man.
All right.
Bloody awesome, mate. What I was worrying about towards the end was
time.
Well, the battery running out on the camera. So these cameras, you can't charge them while you're recording. I've got 4%
what is it?
left. ZV-10, Sony.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're supposed to be good, these things.
Yeah, they're real good.